Welcome to Washington in Focus. I am Tim Klausler, the Center Square's Eastern Washington reporter, here today with Spencer Pauly, one of our Western Washington reporters based out of Seattle. Spencer has a story today for us regarding a recent city council appointment in the city of Linwood near him, but in quite an interesting turn of events. The appointment sounds like it was removed. Spencer has a little bit more context on this. Why don't you run it by us, Spencer?
Yeah, Tim, interesting is a nice way to put that. What has transpired in Linwood this week. The Linwood City Council had a vacant position that they filled with Jessica Ann Roberts, who is a trans woman that was appointed on Monday. The very next day, I have to give credit to the Linwood Times. They were the first to report on Roberts having an OnlyFans account. For those who don't know what OnlyFans is, it's a social media service where people post explicit photos of themselves and make money. She has a modest 135 paid subscribers on that account. The Don't ask me how I know. The Linwood Times posted all of it, so that's how I found out. Let me just be clear on that. I don't look at OnlyFans. I should probably say that, no judgment, but that's just me. Anyways, once that was found out, the Linwood City Council immediately said we're going to have a special meeting on Thursday, and that's where they were ready to set to get rid of her appointment. But right before that happened, she withdrew her candidacy. So they just now have been talking about what's the next steps because they have a deadline to fill that vacancy, but a rather awkward week for city council members.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, I didn't take a look at the application myself, but as far as I'm aware, I'm not aware of any questions regarding this line of work in a candidate's past. Was this a part of the vetting process? Has it been in the past? Will it be in the future having this happen?
It will definitely be going forward. When the city council members are talking about what next, there's four candidates left for consideration. We don't know if they want to be still considered. I think one council member, her name's Derek Escamilla, she was skeptical if they want to, saying, quite honestly, if I was one of them, I would be like, I don't want to be your sloppy thirds. She had to apologize for that quote there immediately after. But yeah, I think they might do some more questions vetting process here. You're going to see questions of whether or not, is their background have anything embarrassing to, the residents of Linwood. This is a position that represents the city. And that's why a lot of the public that was there during that meeting on Thursday, they were pretty vocal. They laughed at some of the comments. They clapped. It was pretty vocal. So this is definitely something that was not seen in a positive way by Linwood residents, I should say. Now, I will say one council member also said that when they did vet the process, one of the questions was, is there anything that, this candidate may have previously said in their private lives that could become public? Now, they said that Roberts did not inform them of her OnlyFans account when that question was raised. And so you could say that there was some questions that could have alluded to, do you have an OnlyFans account? But I think, yeah, that's where we're kind of looking at here.
Yeah, it kind of raises the question as to what should disqualify a potential candidate for an elected office. I mean, just recently we had a mayoral candidate out of the city of Portland, who is a female dancer herself, also called a stripper by many, including the moderator of a debate that she was on with other mayoral candidates before the new year. So, I mean, she didn't win the election, but she was on that main stage with several other candidates being identified as a stripper. So it kind of begs the question, what is acceptable and what is not acceptable, especially in states like Washington or Oregon, where you have, a large part of the western half, or even not even half, that I-5 corridor is very blue, whereas the rest of the state leans pretty left. So you have a very big divergence on these standards.
I'm not familiar with what happened in Portland there. So there was a mayoral candidate who was a stripper.
Uh, yes, she was a female dancer. I might pronounce her name wrong. It's Liv Ostos, also known as Viva Las Vegas. She's a writer, musician, actress, activist, and for more than 25 years, she was a female dancer as well. But she was up there debating alongside all the other mayoral candidates, as if that wasn't part of her past, as if it didn't matter at all. So, I mean, it does beg the question, do these things matter? Do we want people with these lived experiences representing the constituency? But it is an interesting turn of events for this to happen, to have it immediately reversed, it seems like, in Linwood. I mean, did you get much reaction from any residents in particular, other than those sitting on the council?
What do you mean by reactions? Like from out residents or whatnot?
Yeah, I mean, I'm interested to hear what residents think because I mean, Linwood, it's over there around Seattle, Bellevue, these other big metros on the western half of the state, areas where, someone with this background, it might be more accepted than say a municipality surrounding the city of Spokane.
Yeah.
What do they think?
Well, I actually did tell some of my friends here in Seattle about this story just because it is pretty unique, I think, to put it that way. And Seattle is more progressive here. I think is a good way to say here. And they said that this is none of their business, whether they do any kind of sex work, perhaps, or modeling that might be explicit. That's none of their business. But when we heard from Linwood residents during the chamber council meeting, what you're seeing is that they don't want to be represented by these people first. And, also they didn't vote for this person. This person was appointed by the city council. So they didn't have a say in this. There was no really public comment period about the candidates. This is kind of done in-house per se. And that's one of the things that I think you heard the crowd from. Now that's about all I can say on that from what I've heard. I haven't talked directly to any of the Linwood residents, but just from the meeting there itself, you can kind of get a sense of they don't really approve of Roberts and they're glad she's gone. But there is a bit of embarrassment and a show of dysfunction, perhaps, in the fact that council members were not aware of this. Now, the city council is considering doing background checks on the rest of the candidates, but they also, some of them said that's not fair because we didn't have to go through background checks when we were going to become candidates. So now there's just a cloud of, let's say, not quite sure. They're not quite sure what to do next here, and we're going to look at maybe vetting more of these candidates first off, if they're still down to be considered, and then will we see a background check on them to ensure that don't have any OnlyFans account or any other accounts or background that could, embarrass the city of Linwood.
Yeah, that's understandable. I think it's worth pointing out that in this instance, it appears that the then appointed council member wasn't breaking the law. But you mentioned how the council had asked questions about statements that they had made in the past that might reflect poorly on the city of Linwood and its constituency. One thing that comes to mind is the description that Roberts used themselves to describe their channel. Now, forgive us here if this is just one long expletive beep, but Spencer, can you please read that descriptor statement for me?
Sure, you can test my professionalism here as I say this with a straight face, but Roberts's OnlyFans bio said, quote, "A bisexual trans woman with itty bitty titties and a big girl, come have a fun time with me," end quote. So I think she goes straight to the point there, what she's trying to sell and show there on her OnlyFans account.
Yeah, I think that just really shred lights on the duality here. Like, it's not illegal. It might be seen as an overstep of someone's privacy, their personal life or business, but at the same time, they're representing the constituents of Linwood, whether they sit on the right side of the aisle or the left, and both sides of the aisle, frankly, might not enjoy being represented with someone with this background. Not to say that that's wrong, but that's just the opinions of some.
Right.
But definitely something we'll continue to monitor moving forward as these dynamics might change and there might be new systems to vet these candidates. But thank you, Spencer, for joining us today. And this was another
I just
episode.
have to say, I'm pretty impressed with how you have not cracked once during this entire episode here. What we're talking about here is we can say it's pretty funny. It's a little embarrassing perhaps, but this has gotten national attention, especially from right-leaning news services like Fox News has kind of mentioned this. So I just want to give props to you, Tim, for keeping a straight face and staying professional while I try my best over here.
Well, I'm here to guide the conversation and keep it unbiased. So I appreciate your input, Spencer. And again, we'll continue to monitor this moving forward. But thank you, and thank you all for listening. This has not been another episode of Washington in Focus.